My name is Anya Sokolova, and I used to practice pirouettes in front of a broken mirror in a freezing room on the outskirts of Moscow. My toes would burn, and yet I smiled at a future that seemed close enough to touch. When I close my eyes, I still see the long corridor of the majestic theater. I smell the resin on the floor, the cold rehearsal lights that stretch the shadows like promises to be kept by time. I tell this now because I learned that dreams also rot when life locks them away in dark, windowless basements. I know that today I need to reclaim the little girl who believed the Bolshoi ballet was the only way, but to do that she would have to cross a path of sweat and tears, wearing an imposing and delicate elegance. I remember the winter when everything changed. I remember the thin cotton dress under the borrowed coat, my hands trembling from cold and hunger, the gray city with chimney smoke and hurry. I remember Irina Volkova's look, a classmate who swore me friendship with a care that now strikes me as calculated. I remember the dry snap in my ankle, like wood giving way, and the silence afterward, much louder than the cries I could not sustain. I did not know then that that silence was the first form of exile. Today I speak softly, not from shame, but out of respect for the layers of dust that cover my memories. I want to lead you through my night with the calm of someone who always knew she would come home alone, even if that home was an hourly rented room and arms that were not always kind. If there is redemption, I was born to seek it in unlikely places. I was orphaned too young to learn how to ask. I only learned to accept what I was given without complaint. I grew up in a row of iron beds in some state institution, with a skylight where the snow looked like wool falling from the sky, and a refectory where thin broth was served as if it were a celebration. In the orphanage, I discovered that the body could be discipline, and that discipline at times is a form of love. Ludmila Ivanovna, a thin teacher who smiled with her eyes, taught me to open my arms like someone who opens curtains to a new day. I followed the instructions as if survival depended on it, and perhaps it did. When I arrived at the ballet school, Moscow seemed made of straight lines and rows. Music, however, was the place where lines curved and I could exist. I imagined the Bolshoi as an altar and offered myself wholly. I did not have a surname that opened doors, but I had a stubborn ankle, a strong axis, and a will that rubbed the floor until sparks flew. There, will was worth as much as food in a long winter. Irina appeared as an attentive companion. She reached out when I fell off a turn, invited me to stretch, lent ribbon, corrected details. I gave her my trust like one waters a flower. It felt good to believe in someone who seemed to understand the music. I did not yet know that some people learn to give affection like a snake coils around you, injecting venom in small doses. Outside, life was as hard as yesterday's bread. Lines for potatoes, rumors of shortages, people walking with their heads down. The Cold War was invisible but heavy in the newspapers and the fear of speaking about it. I learned to listen between the lines because hidden there was the doctrine of a country. I folded my leotard carefully, thanked every rehearsal, saved coins, sewed my slippers until my toe bled just enough. Everything had a price. I did not yet know what mine would be. It was during a dress rehearsal, before a performance that could bring me closer to the committee choosing girls for Bolshoi auditions. I was light but focused. The conductor marked the tempo. My classmates breathed beside me like a discreet chorus. I had warmed up early, my ankle taped, the ribbon tight. I tested my axis, walked the plank to feel the vibration, mentally reviewed every entrance and exit. Everything seemed in place. On the opening jump, I felt my stocking slip in an unusual way. It was as if the resin dust had been moved or a portion of the stage was slightly oily. My foot lost grip. It gave at the wrong angle and the snap came, quick and merciless. My body tried to save itself. The axis searched for a column that was no longer there. I fell and understood, by the silence that followed and the warmth rising in my head, that something very serious had happened. The physical pain was only the first wave. Days later, I noticed someone had tampered with my space. The resin was accumulated in a strange pattern. The ribbon of my slipper had been replaced with one whose knot was planted in a treacherous position. Irina cried tears that seemed far too sincere for the occasion. I accepted her consolation because it was what I had left. The treatment was modest, physical therapy a luxury with a waiting list, and the school, practical, distanced itself. I returned to a colder room and the mirror gained a new crack. Walking down the street, I heard steps more focused, as if the world could push my ankle the wrong way again. When things get bad, hunger sharpens its own logic. I sought work cleaning corridors, carrying boxes, delivering messages, anything, until Viktor Sergeyevich, a man in a dark coat, asked if I had served tables before. I said I learned quickly. He took me to a basement that smelled of cigarettes and cheap sweets. Green tablecloths, muffled laughter, music too loud for my rehearsal room ears. At first, I only carried glasses and disguised the unsteadiness of my ankle with small steps. Then the manager coached me to wear more makeup, a body-hugging dress, to smile as if my smile were part of the order. I had a small voice, a body trained to obey, and need thrumming like an alarm. I learned to breathe slowly, to look over my shoulder, to turn my face away when someone tried to make my hands an object. It was there I met the woman who taught me to survive as you learn to boil water. Galina Petrovna, a woman with a straight spine and wrinkles of experience, watched me for days before approaching. People like her only come when they feel you are ready to hear. She spoke little. When she did, she was definitive. She explained I needed to eat before I worked, to save part of what I earned in an envelope I would not even know where it was hidden, to recognize that my body was both tool and temple, and that no one had the right to demand devotion without providing compensation. The nights in the basement stretched out. Men came smelling of vodka and winter. I learned to distinguish the dangerous from those who merely sought a mirror to feel alive. I kept the light in my eyes bright enough to appear present, but low enough not to invite invasions. I discovered that hands tell stories, and that mine, when resting on a table, needed to say no with elegance. Galina called me girl once, and I understood that in that word there was a mantle. She taught me to choose clients with my gaze, to measure the mood, to refuse advances with phrases that would not be taken as an attack. She spoke of the risk of affection, the thin line between protection and possession. She said love from the basement is often counterfeit currency, too shiny to fool the unwary. The country's economy weighed like rain on cold days. Everything was scarce, including patience. At the market, they fought over scraps. In the basement, they fought over illusions. I felt outside myself, as if I had abandoned my body on stage and since then carried a shell. Still, inside that shell, a stubborn dancer remained. I woke early to stretch secretly, strengthened the ankle with exercises learned by memory, felt the snap sometimes like a ghost who likes to haunt me and remind me of that day. I clung to the idea that my body, even wounded, remained mine. Time passed as it passes for any prostitute, between coarse men with poor hygiene and those who only wanted to talk and be heard, until he appeared as if he wanted nothing. Sergei Mikhailovich Morozov. Discreet posture, unostentatious clothes, the look of someone who calculates without rushing. I was serving a nearby table when I felt the air between us have a different density. He spoke little and listened more than he drank. Over weeks he came on the same days, sat in the same place, left carefully folded bills as if not to humiliate. I offered what the place required, but established a distance he respected. Galina watched from afar, assessing if I would stray with the new situation. Over time he suggested meeting outside the basement. I refused at first. Later, I calculated risks and accepted a short walk early, when the cold still held the streets empty. We walked little and he listened with an attention I was not used to. He noticed my ankle, not as curiosity but as one noticing the pivot around which a pain turns. In the weeks that followed, he became a regular. He brought small, useful gifts, nothing flashy. I suspected what every man hides, but allowed myself the benefit of care. One gray afternoon, he told me he was married. He did not give the name and I did not ask. The fact landed on me like something that would not change the present or the future. Galina reminded me promises are easily born in a land of shortage. I told her there were no promises. There was something between us that looked like affection and domesticated desire. I recognized in him a kind of loneliness that came well-dressed, and he recognized in me the image of something lost he could find, as long as it did not cost him his comfort. This time I did not hide my origins. Early in our meetings, I told Sergei I had been a ballet student, that my ankle had given way in rehearsal, and that after that fall, everything broke inside and out. He listened carefully, attentive to the shape of the scar and the habitual gesture with which I still flexed my toes before stepping up. I made clear the dance was not an ornament to seduce men. It was the place where I had come from and from which I had been expelled. On a calm, snowy night, he spoke of youth and study, of a country that trained him to archive his emotions like documents. Gradually, he began to describe his wife. A hunger for the stage, a cold temper, a habit of comparison, envy dressed as ambition. Sometimes she seemed lighter after remembering past victories, as if she exhaled a guilty relief. As always, I listened. Days later, almost without meaning to, he confided that his wife once admitted doing something very wrong to secure a position. He spoke of backstage tricks and resin moved from its place, ribbons tampered with, markings shifted a few centimeters, enough to topple a body. He did not say names. There was no need. Every detail opened a window onto my own past. Cold rose through my legs like thaw water, and for the first time I did not doubt what instinct had whispered since our first meeting in the basement. To give time sense, I aligned my chronology with his. Years before meeting in that basement, Sergei had married a contemporary of mine, someone who walked the same corridors I had, someone who distanced herself from me right after my accident. The line appeared whole. We were young at the same time, rivals under the guise of friendship. She moved forward toward a career. I fell and descended lower than the stage, and so our paths separated. Years later, fate put me before the husband she chose. I did not shout, did not cry, did not demand explanations. I remained silent, the same silence from the day of the fall. The choreography of my life rearranged itself into a dramatic measure. I did not need her signature to recognize the handwriting of the crime. The false friend, after all, was the wife of Sergei, and I had before me the missing link. The turning point was internal and without witnesses. I looked at the ceiling of the cheap room and understood that vengeance exists like a fire that promises warmth and only leaves ash. I decided not to burn myself whole. I needed to discover enough to see myself clearly, not simply to destroy another person. Time continued passing, and when Sergei kept talking about his wife, I paid attention to the details. She complained about pressure, about colleagues who did not know their place, about girls seeking shortcuts, about directors who trusted instinct over hierarchy. I recognized in her the profile life taught me to spot, someone who confuses merit with ownership, as if talent belonged to whoever claims it most loudly. He, without noticing, gave me maps. I did not want scandal. I wanted a simple act, to return to my story the pages that had been stolen, even if that did not change the present. I arranged a meeting that seemed like any other. I suggested he tell me, with the same calm with which he drank, how his life was. He spoke of the house, routines, commitments. Casually, I asked about the theater season and how Irina handled the new girls. He, distracted or overconfident, mentioned the resin story and a suggestion Irina had allegedly received from a colleague to reduce competition. He did not speak my name, and I no longer needed him to. I saw in him not a tormentor, but a man split between twisted loyalties and selective morality. He loved her like one loves an old photograph, with affection and distance. I loved him with winter pragmatism, a warmth for an instant, not something to sustain a whole season. Still, I used the space between us to build my own justice. When I finally decided to confront Irina Volkova, I was not looking for an audience. I waited after rehearsal, asked the doorkeeper to linger in a side corridor, and let memory do the initial work. When she saw me, the shock was brief and hard. I told her who I was now, plain. A woman who sells her body to survive. An ex-student who fell from a tampered jump. Someone who had learned from Galina Petrovna to set boundaries where the world insists on invading. I also told her that her husband had found me repeatedly, that he had loved me in his way, that he had told me more than he intended about the envy living inside his wife, and about the old story of a colleague knocked down with calculated cruelty. I did not raise my voice. I said I had thought of revenge, of going to the director, of spreading names in the wings, of turning the whole theater into a courtroom. I told her I rehearsed speeches in my head, wrote letters I never sent, imagined the bitter taste of watching her career fall. I told her I chose another path, to return to her the weight I had borne for years without chaining myself to that weight forever. She tried to deny it with gestures, then tried to minimize it by saying, everyone does certain things to survive and get ahead. I listened until the end. I said I was not there to debate percentages of guilt or invisible rules. I was there to set the truth between us like a heavy piece of furniture no one can move. I added that if one day I were asked, I would tell the whole story, without drama and without hiding names. I spoke of Sergei with precision. I said he had sought me, treated me kindly, given me clues without knowing, and that there had been no heroism between us. I said I was not interested in taking anyone's place. My presence was not a marital threat, but a mirror. I watched Irina's armor crack where vanity met fear. She realized I knew, and that I was whole enough not to make a spectacle. I left her alone with that. Before I left, I showed the stitch and ribbon scars, touched my ankle with the tips of my fingers, and said I was not seeking her fall, but my own steadiness. I said vengeance would burn me. Justice for me was living knowing the truth had been spoken to the right face. I walked out of the corridor feeling I had closed a door that had creaked for years. There were no applause. There was only a quiet settling of accounts, austere like the winters I had crossed. I returned to the basement. Sergei looked for me for a while. I told him Irina and I had met and that I would no longer hide anything. He understood the message I did not have to detail and gradually drifted away. I did not hate him for it, but I did not love him either. I silently thanked the information he had given without knowing and released him from that role. Today I walk slowly down Prospect Mira, trees keeping secrets beneath their frozen roots. I still work with my body, but it is also witness and tool of a small faith I built in myself. I did not save myself through the stage, but I saved myself in another way. I refuse to let hatred define me. In every rented room, I impose the rules I have learned. In each early morning, I meet Galina, sometimes in person, often in memory, and I thank the lessons no one else would have had the patience to give. I think of the orphanage girl and feel tenderness. I would tell her that the Bolshoi is a beautiful name, but the world holds other stages, less lit, where courage also dances. I would tell her that not every rehearsal friend wishes her well, and that does not mean she must become an enemy of the world. I would tell her that justice is often not another's downfall, but the steadiness with which you choose to be, despite what others do to you. I know some expect a different ending: escape, love that rescues, a redemptive return to the great theaters. My redemption is lower, intimate, invisible. I find myself in small gestures: the correct posture entering a hostile place, the firm refusal of an indecent proposal, the bread bought without a trembling hand, the money kept in the envelope only I know the location of. I still stretch my ankle every day, not to return to the jump, but to remember that the body is not only scar, but tissue that reorganizes. Sometimes I pass by the theater and see the girls arriving, wrapped in coats, laughing at life like they do not yet know it. I wish for them to dance without stumbling on others' envy. I wish for them to have true friends, the rare ones who push you toward the light. I wish they never have to go down into basements to learn how to protect themselves. But if they must, may they find a woman like Galina Petrovna, capable of holding them by the nape and laying them gently on the floor when the world tries to throw them down. I accepted my fate, not as condemnation, but as the climate of a country, with strategy, suitable clothing, and the discreet hearth fire we keep lit inside us. I did not take vengeance, not out of sanctity, but because I learned not to feed fires that only illuminate ruins turned to ash. I do justice when I lift what is left of me and make a way of life from it. I look at the broken mirror and see, in the new crack, a line that is also part of my making. I comb my hair, put on a touch of lipstick, and step out into the street like someone going to war and going home at the same time. At night, before sleeping, I spread a towel on the floor and stretch. My ankle still cracks now and then, like a reminder that the story is mine, that each step has consequences, that gravity exists, but so does the strength to rise. I think of Irina Volkova and hope she wakes with the burden of her choices. I think of Sergei Morozov and wish he finds honesty in the form of a good woman and is happy with her. I think of Galina and promise that when it is my turn, I will teach a girl how to boil water, save money, set boundaries, and say no without fear. If this story touched you, help it travel farther. Like to keep this voice alive. Share so other stories find the light, and write in the comments the phrase that stayed with you today. Subscribe to the channel. Here we turn scars into strength and stories into beacons.